Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada, where our hearts are being cleansed and enlivened and learning how to become attracted to Krishna scientifically, gradually but scientifically, through reading the various verses of the Srimad-Bhagavatam all the way through. And when we get to the 10th canto, who knows what's going to happen? We'll have to transport the whole room, and all of us in it up to Goloka. We'll see. We'll see. And to you out in cyberspace, thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for all your comments, and deeply appreciated. Okay, Sanatana Goswami is waiting to hear us glorify the Srimad-Bhagavatam through his words. Srimad-Bhagavatam Mahima Stotram, the glories of Srimad-Bhagavatam, from the Sri Krishna Leela Stava. And it goes like this. Sarva Shastabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of all the precious gems of all conclusive truths. You are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidwandoditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Man Mahadana Man Nistadaga Madbhagya Mad Anandanamostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu Saduta Dayin Adini Chochatakara Hanamunchagadachin Mam Premna Retkantayospuda. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart. In my voice, I love my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So, Prthu Maharaj has convinced the earth, well, that's putting it mildly, chased her with an bow and arrow to the point where he was going to kill her if she didn't cooperate. And she cooperated. And she suggested herself that rather than kill me, why don't you just milk me? You know, get a proper person to milk, get a proper pot, keep the milk, and then all these different categories of personalities are coming with their some kind of vessel and milking the earth from all these different things, not just milk, that's figuratively, but all these different things are coming into the hands of the right persons. And this is one of the missions of Prthu Maharaj, as the first formal king of the earth. He did different things, like he started agriculture and he organized things in a little bit different way. He was Krishna. He was an empowered devotee of Krishna, the powered incarnation of Krishna. Okay, so now we're finishing with this section where all the different living entities are milking the earth of what they need. And here we are at text 22, chapter 18, Canto 4. Thereafter, cobras and snakes without hoods, cobras and snakes without hoods, large snakes, scorpions, and many other poisonous animals took poison out of the planet Earth as their milk and kept this poison in snake holes. They made a calf out of Takshaka. Purport, that's the king of the snakes. Purport. Within this material world, there are various types of living entities, and the different types of reptiles and scorpions mentioned in this verse are also provided with their sustenance by the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The point is that everyone is taking his eatables from the planet Earth. According to one's association with the material qualities, one develops a certain type of character. Payakpanam bhujananganam. If one feeds a serpent milk, the snake will simply increase his venom. However, if one supplies milk to a talented sage or saint, the sage will develop fine brain tissues by which he can contemplate higher spiritual life. Thus the Lord is supplying everyone food, but according to the living entity's association with the modes of material nature, the living entity develops a specific character. Text 23 and 24. The four-legged animals, like the cows, made a calf out of the bull, who carries Lord Shiva, and made a milking pot out of the forest. Thus they got fresh green grasses to eat. Ferocious animals like tigers transformed a lion into a calf, and thus they were able to get flesh for milk. The birds made a calf out of Garuda and took milk from the planet Earth in the form of moving insects and non-moving plants and grasses. Purport. There are many carnivorous birds descended from Garuda, the winged carrier of Lord Vishnu. Indeed, there is a particular type of bird that is very fond of eating monkeys. Eagles are fond of eating goats, and of course many birds eat only fruits and berries. Therefore the word charam, referring to moving animals, and acharam, referring to grasses, fruits, and vegetables, are mentioned in this verse. Text 25. The trees made a calf out of the banyan tree, and thus they derived milk in the form of many delicious juices. The mountains transformed the Himalayas into a calf, and they milked a variety of minerals into a pot made of the peaks of hills. Text 26. The planet Earth supplied everyone his respective food. During the time of King Prthu, the earth was fully under the control of the king. Thus, all the inhabitants of the earth could get their food supply by creating various types of calves and putting their particular type of milk in different pots. Purport. This is evidence that the Lord supplies food to everyone. As confirmed in the Vedas, Eko Bahunam Yo Vididati Kaman. Although the Lord is one, He is supplying all necessities to everyone through the medium of the planet Earth. There are different varieties of living entities on different planets, and they all derive their eatables from their planets in different forms. On the basis of these descriptions, how can one assume that there is no living entity on the moon? Every moon is earthly, being composed of the 5 elements. Every planet produces different types of food according to the needs of its residents. According to the Vedic Shastras, it is not true that the moon does not produce food or that no living entity is living there. Hare Krishna, Doctor. Text 27. My dear Vidura, chief of the Kurus, in this way King Prthu and all the others who subsist on food created different types of calves and milked out their respective eatables. Thus they received their various foodstuffs, which were symbolized as milk. Thereafter, King Prthu was very satisfied with the planet Earth, for she sufficiently supplied all food to various living entities. Thus he developed an affection for the planet Earth, just as if she were his own daughter. Text 29. After this, the king of all kings, Maharaja Prthu, leveled all rough places on the earth of the surface of the globe by breaking up the hills with the strength of his bow. By his grace, the surface of the globe became almost flat. That's except for the Himalayas and other big mountain ranges. Purport. Generally, the mountains and hilly portions of the earth are made flat by striking of thunderbolts. Generally, this is the business of King Indra of the heavenly planets, but King Prthu, an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, did not wait for King Indra to break up the hills and mountains, but did so himself by using his strong bow. Text 30. To all the citizens of the state, King Prthu was as good as a father. Thus he was visibly engaged in giving them proper subsistence and proper employment for subsistence. After leveling the surface of the globe, he earmarked different places for residential quarters, inasmuch as they were inasmuch as they were desirable. Text 31. In this way, the king founded many types of villages, settlements, and towns, and built forts, residences for cowherdsmen, stables for the animals, and places for the royal camps, mining places, agricultural towns, and mountain villages. Text 32. Before the reign of King Prthu, there was no planned arrangement for different cities, village, pasturing grounds, etc. Everything was scattered, and everyone constructed his residential quarters according to his own convenience. However, since King Prthu's plans were made for towns, and villages. You see, I have to learn how to read without making a mistake for the recording in the morning. Hare Krishna. Try it. It's not easy. Purport. Purport. So you can say the same thing. However, since King Prthu plans were made, what? However, since King Prthu plans were made, just with one little pause, it changes the whole thing. Right? That's why editors are needed. Yeah. Yeah. But if you read it, since King Prthu plans, then you say, oh, there's something wrong here. This means this should plan or had planned or whatever. But no, it's however, since King Prthu, plans were made for towns and villages. Purport. From this statement, it appears that town and city planning is not new, but has been coming down since the time of King Prthu. In India, we can see regular planning methods evident in very old cities. In Srimad-Bhagavatam, there are many descriptions of such ancient cities. Interesting. I just finished reading Devamrita Maharaja's book called Searching for Vedic India. You heard of it? Anybody? Yes. Yes. It's a fantastic book. And in there he brings out so many things that have happened recently even. They've got this technology, they can look down from above the earth and they can see, they've got powerful machines that can look, and they found the riverbed of the Saraswati River, which all the Indologists say are just, it's a myth, didn't ever exist. Then they extrapolate all these kinds of things we read in the Bhagavatam. This is just myth, it's just mythology, it's not real, and therefore no one should take it seriously. Take us seriously. We'll teach you how to speculate. And you'll be in complete anxiety for the rest of your life and a few lifetimes afterwards. Thus, the planning of cities and towns is not a modern innovation, but was existing in bygone areas. And I stopped because along that riverbed, they saw remnants of cities, large metropolitan areas. But in the Vedic culture, they didn't bury anyone. They burned the body along with the bones, and therefore there's no bones, and therefore they think there was nothing there. Duh. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 4th canto, 18th chapter of Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled King Prthu Milks the Planet Earth. And now we know the real meaning of Mother Earth. Hare Krishna. Okay, chapter 19. King Prithu's 100 horse sacrifices. Text 1. The great sage Maitri continued, My dear Vidura, King Prthu initiated the performance of 100 horse sacrifices at the spot where the river Saraswati flows towards the east. This piece of land is known as Brahmavarta, and it was controlled by Swayambhuva Manu. Text 2. When the most powerful Indra, the king of heaven, saw this, he considered the fact that King Prthu was going to exceed him in fruitive activities. This is the nature of demigods. They get jealous really easily. Thus, Indra could not tolerate the great sacrificial ceremonies performed by King Prthu. Purport. In the material world, everyone who comes to enjoy himself or lord it over material nature is envious of others. This envy is also found in the personality of the King of Heaven, Indra. As evident from revealed scriptures, Indra was several times envious of many persons. He was especially envious of great fruitive activities and the execution of yoga practices or siddhis. Indeed, he could not tolerate them, and he desired to break them up. He was envious due to fear that those who performed great sacrifices for the execution of mystic yoga might occupy his seat. Since no one in this material world can tolerate another's advancement, everyone in the material world is called Matsara, envious. In the beginning of Srimad-Bhagavatam, it is therefore said that Srimad-Bhagavatam is meant for those who are completely nirmatsara, non-envious. In other words, one who is not free from the contamination of envy cannot advance in Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, however, if someone excels another person, the devotee who is excelled thinks how fortunate the other person is to be advancing in devotional service. Such non-envy is typical of Vaikuntha. However, when one is envious of his competitor, that is material. The demigods posted in the material world are not exempt from envy. Therefore, better not go to heaven. Hare Krishna. Text 3. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, is present in everyone's heart as the Supersoul. He is the proprietor of all planets and the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. He was personally present at the sacrifices made by King Prthu. Purport. In this verse, the word Sakshat is significant. Prthu Maharaj was a Shaktivesh avatar incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Actually, Prthu Maharaj was a living entity, but he acquired specific powers from Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu, however, is directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus belongs to the category of Vishnu Tattva. Maharaj Prthu belonged to the Jiva Tattva. The Vishnu Tattva indicates God, whereas the Jiva Tattva indicates the part and parcel of God. When God's part and parcel is especially empowered, he is called Shaktavesha Avatar. Lord Vishnu is herein described as Harir Ishvara. So this means that to be qualified as a Shaktavesha Avatar, you have to be a jiva who can do something, not everything, but something that no one else can do except for Krishna. And now we're going to hear about some of the things that Prthu Maharaj did. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur accepted Lord Jesus Christ as a Shaktavesha Avatar because he did something that no one else could do or has done since. And our Srila Prabhupada, of course, we're biased. What can I say? Hare Krishna. No one has ever been able to bring Krishna consciousness all over the world like he did. We accept him as Shaktavesh. Okay. Therefore, we're very lucky. Lord Vishnu is herein described as Harir Ishvara. The Lord is so kind that he takes all miserable conditions away from his devotees. Consequently, he is called Hari. He is described as Ishvara because he can do whatever he likes. He is the supreme controller. The supreme Ishvara, Purushottama, is Lord Krishna. He exhibits his powers as Ishvara, or the supreme controller, when he assures his devotee in Bhagavad Gita 1866, abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. I shall deliver you from all sinful reaction. Do not fear. He can immediately make his devotee immune from all reactions caused by sinful life if the devotee simply surrenders unto him. He is described herein as Sarvatma, meaning that he is present in everyone's heart as the Supersoul, and as such, he is the supreme teacher of everyone. If we are fortunate enough to take the lessons given by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, our lives immediately become successful. No one can give better instructions to human society than Lord Krishna. Hare Krishna. Text 4. When Lord Vishnu appeared in the sacrificial arena, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and all the great predominating personalities of every planet, as well as their followers, came with him. When he appeared on the scene, the residents of Gandharva Loka, the great sages, and the residents of Apsara Loka all praised him. Text 5. The Lord was accompanied by the residents of Siddhaloka and Vidyadhara Loka, all the descendants of Diti, and the demons and the Yakshasas. He was also accompanied by his chief associates, headed by Sunanda and Nanda. Text 6. Great devotees, who were always engaged in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as well as the great sages named Kapila, Narada, and Dattatreya, and masters of mystic powers, headed by Sanat Kumara, all attended the great sacrifice with Vishnu. Text 7. My dear Vidura, in that great sacrifice, the entire land came to be like the milk-producing Kamadhenu, and thus, by the performance of yajna, all daily necessities for life were supplied. Purport. In this verse, the word Dharma Duga is significant, for it indicates Kamadhenu. Kamadhenu is also known as Surabhi. Surabhi cows inhabit the spiritual world, and as stated in Brahma Samhita, Lord Krishna is engaged in tending these cows. Surabhir abhipalayantam. One can milk a Surabhi cow as often as one likes, and the cow will deliver as much milk as one requires. Milk, of course, is necessary for the production of so many milk products, especially clarified butter, which is required for the performance of great sacrifices. Unless we are prepared to perform the prescribed sacrifices, our supply of the necessities of life will be checked. Bhagavad Gita confirms that Lord Brahma created human society along with yajna, the performance of sacrifice. Yajna means Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and sacrifice means working for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this age, however, it is very difficult to find qualified brahmanas who can perform sacrifices as prescribed in the Vedas. Therefore, it is recommended in Srimad-Bhagavatam, Yagyai Sankirtana Prayaya, Hare Krishna Doctor, that by performing Sankirtan Yagya and by satisfying the Yagya Purusha, Lord Chaitanya, one can derive all the results derived by great sacrifices in the past. King Prthu and others derived all the necessities of life from the earthly planet by performing great sacrifices. Now this Sankirtan movement has already been started by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. People should take advantage of this great sacrifice and join in the society's activities. Then there will be no scarcity. If Sankirtan Yagya is performed, there will be no difficulty, not even in industrial enterprises. Therefore, this system should be introduced in all spheres of life, social, political, industrial, commercial, etc. Then everything will run very peacefully and smoothly. Text 8. The flowing rivers supplied all kinds of tastes, sweet, pungent, sour, etc. And very big trees supplied fruit and honey in abundance. The cows, having eaten sufficient green grass, supplied profuse quantities of milk, yogurt, clarified butter, and similar other necessities. Purport. If rivers are not polluted and are allowed to flow in their own way, or sometimes allowed to flood the land will become very fertile and able to produce all kinds of vegetables, trees, and plants. The word rasa means taste. Actually, all rasas are tastes within the earth. And as soon as seeds are sown in the ground, various trees sprout up to satisfy our different tastes. For instance, sugarcane provides its juices to satisfy our taste for sweetness, and oranges provide their juices to satisfy our taste for a mixture of the sour and sweets. Similarly, there are pineapples and other fruits. At the same time, there are chilies to satisfy our taste for pungency. Although the earth's ground is the same, different tastes arise due to different kinds of seeds. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 7.10, Bijam mam sarvabhutanam, I am the original seed of all existences. Therefore, all arrangements are there. And as stated in each Upanishad, Purnam idam, complete arrangements for the production of all the necessities of life are made by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. People should therefore learn how to satisfy the Yajna Purusha, Lord Vishnu. Indeed, the living entity's prime business is to satisfy the Lord, because the living entity is part and parcel of the Lord. This is the whole system. Thus, the whole system is so arranged that the living entity must do his duty as he is constitutionally made. Without doing so, all living entities must suffer. That is the law of nature. The words Tadavo Bhuri Varshamana indicate very luxuriantly grown, big-bodied trees. The purpose of these trees was to produce honey and varieties of fruit. In other words, the forest also has its purpose in supplying honey, fruits, and flowers. Unfortunately, in Kali Yuga, due to an absence of yajna, there are many big trees in the forest, but they do not supply sufficient fruits and honey. Thus, everything is dependent on the performance of yajna. The best way to perform yajna in this age is to spread the Sankirtan movement all over the world, especially Houston, Texas. Oh. Which is a pretty good sized patch of the world. 419.9. King Prthu was presented with various gifts from the general populace and predominating deities of all planets. The oceans and seas were full of valuable jewels and pearls, and the hills were full of chemicals and fertilizers. Without Monsanto. Okay. 4 kinds of edibles were produced profusely. Purport. As stated in Upanishad, this material creation is supplied with all the potencies for the production of all necessities required by the living entities. Not only human beings, but animals, reptiles, aquatics, and trees. The oceans and seas produce pearls, coral, and valuable jewels, so that fortunate law-abiding people can utilize them. Similarly, the hills are full of chemicals, so that when rivers flow down from them, the chemicals spread over the fields to fertilize the 4 kinds of foodstuffs. These are technically known as karvya, those edibles which are chewed. Leya, those which are licked up. Chusha, those which are sucked. And peya, those which are drunk. Prthu Maharaj was greeted by the residents of all other planets and their presiding deities. They presented various gifts to the king and acknowledged him as the proper type of king, by whose planning and activities everyone throughout the universe could be happy and prosperous. It is clearly indicated in this verse that the oceans and seas are meant for producing jewels, but in Kali Yuga, the oceans are mainly being utilized for fishing. Shudras and poor men were allowed to fish, but the higher classes, like the Kshatriyas and Vaishyas, would gather pearls, jewels, and coral. With the difference of the classes so clear. Although poor men would catch tons of fish, they would not equal in value 1 piece of coral or pearl. In this age, so many factories for the manufacture of fertilizers have been opened. But when the personality of Godhead is pleased by the performance of yajnas, the hills automatically produce fertilizing chemicals, which help produce edibles in the fields. Everything is dependent on the people's acceptance of the Vedic principles of sacrifice. And also, the cow dung is perfect fertilizer. Perfect. Without any dangers. Text 10. King Prthu was dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who was known as Adhokshaja. Because King Prthu performed so many sacrifices, he was superhumanly enhanced by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. King Prithu's opulence, however, could not be tolerated by the King of Heaven, Indra, who tried to impede the progress of his opulence. Purport. In this verse, there are 3 significant purposes expressed in the words Adhokshaja, Bhagavan Indra, and Pritoho. Maharaj Prthu is an incarnation of Vishnu, yet he is a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Although an empowered incarnation of Lord Vishnu, he is nonetheless a living entity. As such, he must be a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although one is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is an incarnation, he should not forget his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Kali Yuga, there are many self-made incarnations, rascals, who declare themselves to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The words Bhagavan Indra indicate that a living entity can even be as exalted and powerful as King Indra, for even King Indra is an ordinary living entity in the material world and possesses the 4 defects of the conditioned soul. King Indra is described herein as Bhagavan, which is generally used in reference to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this case, however, King Indra is addressed as Bhagavan because he has so much power in his hands. Despite his becoming Bhagavan, he is envious of the incarnation of God, Prthu Maharaj. The defects of material life are so strong that due to contamination, King Indra becomes envious of an incarnation of God. See? Confirmed. This envious train that goes by. And some of the drivers are less envious, and they kind of go ba, 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 and some of them just go rah, like maybe they were born in India. Any of those who you all must have been to India because you all laughed because it's pretty clear. You can say that again. This is one of the guys. Yeah? Just we should try to understand, therefore, how a conditioned soul becomes fallen. The opulence of King Prthu was not dependent on material conditions. As described in this verse, he was a great devotee of Adhoksaja. The word Adhoksaja indicates the personality of Godhead, who was beyond the expression of mind and words. However, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears before the devotee in his original form of eternal bliss and knowledge. The devotee is allowed to see the Supreme Lord face to face, although the Lord is beyond the expression of our senses and beyond our direct perception. Text 11. When Prthu Maharaj was performing the last horse sacrifice, Ashwamedha Yagya, King Indra, invisible to everyone, stole the horse intended for sacrifice. He did this because of his great envy of King Indra, of Prthu. Purport. King Indra is known as Kshatrakratu, which indicates that he has performed 100 horse sacrifices, Ashwamedha Yagya. We should know, however, that the animals sacrificed in the yagya were not killed. In the Vedic mantras, if the Vedic mantras were properly pronounced during the sacrifice, the animal sacrifice would come out again with a new life. That is the test for a successful yagya. When King Prthu was performing 100 yagyas, King Indra became very envious because he did not want anyone to excel him. Being an ordinary living entity, he became envious of King Prthu, and, making himself invisible, he stole the horse and thus impeded the yagya performance. Rustler. Yeah, rustler. Text 12. When King Indra was taking away the horse, he dressed himself to appear as a liberated person. Actually, this dress was a form of cheating, for it falsely created an impression of religion. When Indra went into outer space in this way, the great sage Atri saw him and understood the whole situation. Purport. The word pakanda, used in this verse, is sometimes pronounced pashanda. Both of these words indicate an impostor who presents himself as a very religious person, but in actuality is sinful. Indra took up the saffron-colored dress in a way of cheating others. This saffron dress has been misused by many impostors who present themselves as liberated persons or incarnations of God. In this way, people are cheated. I mean, you have to be wanting to be cheated to accept an ordinary person as God, isn't it? In this way, people are cheated. As we have mentioned many times, the conditioned soul has a tendency to cheat. Therefore, this quality is also visible in a person like King Indra. It is understood that even King Indra is not liberated from the clutches of material contamination. Thus the words, amukta iva, amuktam iva, meaning as if he were liberated or used. The saffron dress worn by a sannyasi announces to the world that he has renounced all worldly affairs and is simply engaged in the service of the Lord. Such a devotee is actually a sannyasi or liberated person. In Bhagavad Gita 6.1 it is said, Anashritak karmapalam karyam karma karotiyaha sasanyasi chijogi cha nang niragir nachakriya. One who is unattached to the fruits of his work and who works as he is obligated is in the renounced order of life, and he is the true mystic, not he who lights no fire and performs no work. In other words, one who offers the results of his activities to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually a sannyasi and yogi. Cheating sannyasis and yogis have existed since the time of Prthu Maharaja's sacrifice. This cheating was very foolishly introduced by King Indra. In some ages, such cheating is very prominent, and in other ages, not so prominent. It is the duty of a sannyasi to be very cautious, because as stated by Lord Chaitanya, sannyasira alpa chidra sarvaloka gaya, a little spot in a sannyasi's character will be magnified by the public. Therefore, unless one is very sincere and serious, he should not take up the order of sannyas. One should not use this order as a means to cheat the public. It is better not to take up sannyas in this age of Kali, because provocations are very strong in this age. Only a very exalted person, advanced in spiritual understanding, should attempt to take up sannyas. One should not adopt this order as a means for livelihood or for some material purpose. Text 13. When the son of King Prthu was informed by Atri of King Indra's trick, he immediately became very angry and followed Indra to kill him, calling, "Wait, wait." Purport. The words tishta, tishta are used by a Kshatriya when he challenges his enemy. When fighting, a Kshatriya cannot flee from the battlefield. However, when a Kshatriya out of cowardice flees from the battlefield, showing his back to his enemy, he is challenged with the words tishta, tishta. A real Kshatriya does not kill his enemy from behind, nor does a real Kshatriya turn his back on the battlefield. According to Kshatriya principle and spirit, one either attains victory or dies on the battlefield. Although King Indra was very exalted, being the king of heaven, he became degraded due to his stealing the horse intended for sacrifice. Therefore he fled without observing the Kshatriya principles, and the son of Prthu had to challenge him with the words tishta, tishta. It's interesting, a little background. When a king wanted to perform sacrifice, one of the qualifications or the prerequisites was that you had to take this horse, which had to be perfect in every possible way, and certain markings had to be there, and you had to let him roam. And he roamed all of the earth, and all the kings knew what that meant. And they would either challenge or they would come and give the tribute for the sacrifice. And in this way they could afford these extremely opulent and expensive sacrifices. So this is what Indra did. He kind of challenged. When Yudhishthira performed the Rajasuya sacrifice, which is also similar, he sent out the horse, and the only king that would not accept him was Jarasandha. So therefore Krishna knew that he would be a big problem. So he went with just two other people, Bhima and Arjuna, and he challenged Jarasandha to a fight. And anyway, it was a long story, but they ended up killing him without fighting a shot or losing any soldiers. Therefore, Yudhishthira could do the Rajasuya sacrifice. Yeah. So it's not an easy thing to do. When you hear these things, Rajasuya sacrifice, we have a big kirtan and everything's okay. Yeah. No, you got to have every single person on the planet supporting you. Okay, text 14. King Indra was fraudulently dressed as a sannyasi, having knotted his hair on his head and smeared ashes all over his body. You can go to the Kumbh Mela and see characters like this. Upon seeing such dress, the son of Prthu considered Indra a religious man and pious sannyasi. Therefore, he did not release his arrows. Text 15. When Atri saw that the son of King Prthu did not kill Indra, but returned deceived by him, Atri Muni again instructed him to kill the heavenly king, because he thought that Indra had become the lowliest, see, without a mistake. That means you have to stop the recording, you have to go back and do it again. Hare Krishna. When Atri Muni saw that the son of King Prthu did not kill Indra, but returned deceived by him, Atri Muni again instructed him to kill the heavenly king, because he thought that Indra had become the lowliest of all demigods due to his impending impeding the execution of King Prithu's sacrifice. So if I was downstairs, I'd have to repeat that whole thing again and again until I got it right. Hare Krishna. Text 16. Being thus informed, the grandson of King Vena immediately began to follow Indra, who was fleeing through the sky in great haste. He was very angry with him, and he chased him, just as the king of the vultures chased Ravana. Text 17. When Indra saw that the son of Prthu was chasing him, he immediately abandoned his false dress and left the horse. Indeed, he disappeared from that very spot, and the great hero, the son of Maharaja Prthu, returned the horse to his father's sacrificial arena. Text 18. My dear Vidura, when the great sages observed the wonderful prowess of the son of King Prthu, they all agreed to give him the name Vichitashva. Text 19. My dear Vidura, Indra, being the king of heaven and very powerful, immediately brought a dense darkness upon the sacrificial arena. Covering the whole scene in this way, he again took away the horse, which was chained with golden shackles near the wooden instrument where animals were sacrificed. Text 20. The great sage Atri again pointed out to the son of King Prthu that Indra was fleeing through the sky. The great hero, the son of Prthu, chased him again. But when he saw that Indra was carrying in his hand a staff with a skull on the top, and was again wearing the dress of a sannyasi, he still chose not to kill him. Text 21. When the great sage Atri again gave directions, the son of King Prthu became very angry and placed an arrow on his bow. Upon seeing this, King Indra immediately abandoned the false dress of a sannyasi, and, giving up the horse, made himself invisible. Text 22. Then the great hero, Vijitashva, the son of King Prthu, again took the horse and returned to his father's sacrificial arena. Since that time, certain men with the portent of knowledge have adopted the dress of a false sannyasi. It was King Indra who introduced this. Purport. Since time immemorial, the sannyas order has carried the Tridanda. Later, Shankaracharya introduced the Ekadandi sannyasi. A Tridandi sannyasi is a Vaishnava sannyasi, and an Ekadandi sannyasi is a Mayavadi sannyasi. There are many other types of sannyasis who were not approved by Vedic rituals. A type of pseudo-sannyas was introduced by Indra when he tried to hide himself from the attack of Vijitashva, the great son of King Prthu. Now there are many different types of sannyasis. Some of them go naked, and some of them, generally known as Kapalika, carry a skull and trident. Whoops. Did it again. All of them were introduced under some meaningless circumstances. And those who have a poor fund of knowledge accept these false sannyasis and their pretenses, although they are not bona fide guides to spiritual advancement. At the present moment, some missionary institutions, without referring to the Vedic rituals, have introduced some sannyasis who engage in sinful activities. The sinful activities forbidden by the Shastras are illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. These so-called sannyasis indulge in all these activities. They eat meat and flesh, fish, eggs, and just about everything. They sometimes drink with the excuse that without alcohol, fish and meat, it is impossible to remain in the cold countries near the Arctic zone. These sannyasis introduce all these sinful activities in the name of serving the poor, and consequently poor animals are cut to pieces and go into the bellies of these sannyasis. As described in the following verses, such sannyasis are pakhandis. Vedic literature states that a person who puts Lord Narayana on the level with Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma immediately becomes a pakhandi, as stated in the Puranas. Yes, too, Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Daivatahai Samatmenaiva Bhiksheta Sappashandi Bhavet Dhruvam. In Kali Yuga, the pakhandis are very prominent. However, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has tried to kill all these pakhandis by introducing his Sankirtan movement. Those who take advantage of this Sankirtan movement of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness will be able to save themselves from the influence of these pakhandis. And that ends tonight's reading. Tomorrow we will find out more about what happens. Hare Krishna. Okay, we've come to our favorite time. Some people, for me, I get to share the hot seat, so to speak. Anybody have anything, any reflections, points that standed out in the reading that you want to reflect on yourself, or have further discussions on, or ask questions about? Please feel free. Hare Krishna. And that includes all of you out in cyberspace, by the way. Yes, our new bhakta. Hare Krishna.
One thing, what I really enjoyed was the concept of using the ocean to take jewels out of. It was
He enjoyed making jewels out of the ocean.
Instead of fishing, yeah. There's something new to me, something beautiful.
Yeah. They have specialists in certain countries that live in clear parts of the ocean, and they dive without tanks, very deep, and they get pearls. Anyway, yeah, and not only that, but like that one part that was right connected with there was that, some people take one thing as something good, and another class of people take something else as good. And in this way, there's all classes of people. Therefore, living peacefully together in the earth is getting harder and harder. So therefore, the message, one of the messages that I've thought of, I will give a reflection, is that there's all kinds of very wonderful instructions given in every one of these purports. And if we learn how to deal with difficulties and with relationships, and because it's everywhere. It's everywhere. And sometimes Krishna himself, if a person's very sincere, Krishna himself will take things away so that a person has no other shelter except for him. And sometimes they'll become great kings. But the difference is the consciousness. Once Maharaja Yudhishthira was preparing to do the Rajasuya sacrifice, Krishna asked him what was on his mind, and he said, I want to become the greatest person in the universe. Krishna said, my devotees don't want to become the greatest persons in the universe. What are you talking about? I know you, you're not like that. And he said, yes, I want to become the greatest person. I want everybody to come and offer homage to me. And when they ask me, how did you do that? I'll point to you and I'll say, by his mercy only. If you surrender to him, you can do this. And then Krishna smiled and he said, oh, okay. That's the reason. It's different. It's different. So sometimes Krishna will take everything away. Sometimes Krishna will give everything. Takes all kinds. Krishna's prepared. What else? Boy, we got a satisfied little group of devotees over here in the room today. There's some pretty nice stuff. Maharaj Prthu. Somebody on the okay. Here we go. Cyberspace is saving us for a change.
Vijaya Lakshmi asks, Hari is Lord Vishnu and Ishvara Purushottama. Purushottama is Lord Krishna.
Can you say it again, please?
Hari is Lord Vishnu and Ishvara Purushottama is Lord Krishna.
Question mark. Krishna is both Hari and Ishvara Purushottama. Ishvara Purushottama. He's both. And he expands himself into unlimited different forms to do unlimited different things in response to unlimited different needs of the souls. In Vaikuntha, it's in response to their desires to serve Krishna in a particular way. And in the material world, it's sometimes to protect them from the demons, or also to respond to their devotion in a certain way. Both. So yes, a name for Hari is, Hari means one who takes away. When he takes away our material consciousness, sometimes he takes away our material facilities so that we can become completely absorbed in him and completely surrendered fully. And Purushottama Ishvara is the supreme person who is the supreme mystic yogi. So Krishna is the complete everything. And therefore all the different qualities, all the different abilities, even of all of the incarnations and expansions of God, are all contained in Krishna's form. Therefore, those who are most intelligent, they worship Krishna. They go to Krishna. Because if we want anything, actually, you go to the person who has it all, and then your odds increase. Hare Krishna. Of course, pure devotional service is done without the desire for anything. But akamo savakamo va moksha karma udaradi tivrina bhaktiyo. Tivrina means strong devotional service. So whether you're free from material desire, or whether you're full of material desire, or whether you're aspiring to become free from material desire, you should approach Krishna. That's the message of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. And that's why we have all of these far-out stories and different personalities doing all these far-out things, because it all brings us to the point of worshipping Krishna. Sometimes people who are misinformed or not fully informed think that the Bhagavatam is just a bunch of stories, and therefore what's special about it? But if you analyze it very carefully and go all the way through, you'll see that every single thing that happens, sometimes it's somebody doing something you shouldn't do, and then you get taught what you shouldn't do, and then when that person comes to Krishna, then everything works out nicely. And it's like that. Nothing happens in the Bhagavatam that doesn't direct you towards pure devotional service and full surrender to Krishna. And with that, I am going to, because I was, one more, sorry, Hare Krishna. Cyberspice speaks again.
Rati Manjari Jeanette Van Sigil.
Rati, I should have known that you would have.
Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. What I like tonight is that Prthu Maharaj cared so much about all the citizens, and that he would personally build places of residence for all classes of men. Knowing that he is an empowered incarnation of Krishna gives me a feeling of being sheltered by the very real care of the Lord. Also, we heard about envy tonight, and the importance of overcoming envy, if we are to make any advancement in spiritual life. I have heard that the cure of being envious of someone is to serve that person. Could you please speak more on the topic of conquering envy?
Rati, your questions are always so nice that the answers are already there in your questions. You're not leaving me much to say, because that was the essence of it. You already said the essence of it. When you're envious of another person and you see them doing well, you feel bad. And if you're not envious and you see a person doing well, then you feel good. One time Prabhupada said, a bad person, when he does something bad, he feels good. And a good person, when he does something bad, he feels bad. So we're learning here that no matter who you are, it's not possible to never do something bad or something that's not considered perfect, because that's the nature of material existence. So if we learn, that was one of the points that I was making before Rati asked her question, and that is that in the Srimad-Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita, Krishna personally, or Krishna's pure devotees personally, and even in the Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, and especially in the 11th canto, Krishna again instructs us, how to behave, how to respond in all kinds of circumstances. And then Lord Chaitanya comes and just turns up the heat, turns up the volume, turns up the frequency of intensity of instruction when he says, Chinadapi sunichina, Tador iva sahishnuna, amanina, manidena, kirtaniyak, mantra constantly, which means without offense. One must learn to become as tolerant as a tree. You can approach a tree and you can ask anything, and it will always give you what you want. Even if you cut it for bark or cut for limbs or whatever, never protests. And then, more humble than a blade of grass, because if you step on the grass bends down. And when you step off the grass comes back up. And then, amanina, manadena. If a person does something, speaks ill of you, or does something bad to you, disrespects you in some way, then you give respect back. And in that way you transcend the laws of material nature. And you become capable of chanting Hare Krishna constantly. And then when anything happens to you, and it's not just when bad things happen to you, it's when good things happen to you. It's actually the hardest thing to do, to keep chanting Hare Krishna when something wonderful happens to you. Because then you immediately become full of jubilation and you forget everything. So sometimes it's easier to chant Hare Krishna when something bad happens to you than when something good happens to you. Sukha dukkha same kritva labha jayajayo tato yudaya yujasva naivam papam vapyasi. If you want to live free from sin in this world, then you have to sukha dukkha same kritva. You have to do your things that you do in life. In this case, it's Arjun getting the instruction to fight. Sukha dukkha same kritva labha jayajayo tata yujasva means to fight. But we're not all fighters. We may be whatever we are. But sukha dukkha, and happiness and distress. Sukha dukkha same kritva. Labha, in gain and loss. Jaya, victory or defeat. Be steady, be equipoised. Don't give in to the temptation to revenge or retribution. And then naivam papam babamshasi. You'll never be implicated in the reactions of material activities. And yeah, that's it. Hare Krishna.
It's a nice comment you made.
A nice comment? Rati made?
Yes.
Okay.
He said thank you. And then she says something. Idea.
Rati, first Vijaya Lakshmi said thank you Maharaj, and Rati Manjari says, like Michelle Obama said when they ran for office, when they go low, we go high.
That's it. Prthu Maharaj ki jai. Sama Beda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Prthu Maharaj ki jai. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. That's your cue. Gaur